Agreed. 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 Just hope that my friends, manage to avoid getting put in jail or something like that. That's my biggest concern. Because some of them are, outspoken. They're just going to say what they're going to say, and they don't care about the consequences. But now the Chinese government can basically put you in jail for the rest of your life just for having said something that they didn't like.
This is what Trump wants to do here also. So it's scary. It could happen here.
Yeah. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. I think.
Better not.
I think
There'll be a revolution.
The crowd would not let that happen. Yeah.
There'll be a revolution. Believe me, if they try that crap.
Absolutely.
Hello, Philip.
Hi guys, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you now.
Okay, great to see you all, thanks. I could not find a clickable link. I ended up typing in the link from the event, but is there, maybe I should post a link. This is open to everybody, right?
It is.
Yeah, okay, so let me do that.
So if there is a Zoom bombing, don't blame me, yeah?
Hey, nice to see you, Bill.
Hi, Philip.
Okay, so I'll mute myself for now.
Okay. Hello, Matvei. Nice to meet you. David Solo. Let's see if that's a real person.
Yeah, he's always solo.
There you go. Ah, very good.
Just want to say hello.
Hello, Andrew.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, Adrian. So what do you think? What do you think, JP? Another 5 minutes or 3?
Yeah, that sounds good. Is Irina here yet? I don't see her.
No, she's not. She's not. You're right.
Okay. So yeah, another 3 or 5 minutes. We're live on Facebook now.
So we should all be well behaved, right?
Well, we were going to be that anyway.
Aren't we always? I guess it's the British man in me, you know.
Keeping
All right,
me
darling. All right, darling. I'll have another cocktail, but could you give me 3 cucumber sandwiches as well, please? It's at times like these when I wish I had Rolf Goebel around. Actually,
Playing the West Indies today.
to tell some jokes.
yeah, just to sort of get people in the right mood, you know. Sort of the court jester sort of thing, you know.
Right. Well, we can all talk about the pandemic. That's what we do now.
Oh God. Would you like to talk about the pandemic?
Not.
Anyone? Anyone? Okay.
The elephant in the air.
Exactly. You remember Dumbo? You remember Dumbo? He had those big ears, right?
Yeah.
He could fly with his ears.
That's right. That's right. Oh man.
Okay. All right. Let's give it 3 more minutes.
Sounds good.
Irina is still not here. It seems. Yeah.
Yeah. You wanted to start with her, yes?
Yes, I was going
Oh,
to.
here she is.
Oh, here she is. Yeah.
Hello, Irina.
Hi. How's it going, Irina?
Oh, hello.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to. Shall I start or?
Let me hit mute all and then unmute.
All right. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Muting all so that we don't get Zoom bombers. And if I can find Mark's name again, unmute. All right.
Well, hello, everybody. This evening we have an amazing show lined up. It was called Russian Poetry and Translation, but of course that term or that phrase is to be taken fairly loosely. But this evening we have reading for us Aleksandr Skidan, directly from St. Petersburg, Irina Mashinski, Philip Nikolayev, and Matvei Yankelevich. And it will be an amazing episode. Unfortunately tonight, Larissa Shmilo, our co-founder and co-host, she was not feeling well, so Jonathan and I, have taken over the duties. So first we will do a little bit of a founders round, as we always do, to warm up the mic. Jonathan Penton will be reading something, and here's a little bit about Jonathan. In 1998, Jonathan founded UnlikelyStories.org, which has been running as a continuously updated web magazine. And Unlikely Stories, which spawned a daughter, Unlikely Books, which publishes 3 to 5 poetry books per year. Jonathan has lent editorial and management assistance to a number of literary and artistic ventures, such as the New Orleans Poetry Festival, Mad Hat, and Big Bridge. He has organized literary performances in places like Alabama, Arkansas, California, Chihuahua, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, and many other states. His poetry books are Last Chap, out from Virgin Press, and Blood and Salsa and Painting Rust from Unlikely Books in 2006, Prosthetic Gods from New Sins Press, and Standards of Saturday Lit Fest Press 2016, and more recently the free eChap Backstories from Argotist eBooks from 2017. We'd love to hear something, Jonathan.
Thank you, Mark. So, as regulars know, I'm not very prolific, so I generally read something that we recently published at unlikelystories.org. And this week I'd like to do that. I'd like to read Desiring My Boyfriend's Body, which was by Sergio Ortiz. I had a boyfriend once who believed in decomposition. He told me this as we served in his truck, careening the back roads of Lajas, Puerto Rico, finishing the work of some come-before travelers, flattening each roadkill carcass into unrecognizability. Less for the highway crew, he'd say. Egrets, known as the great white heron, gather at the maw of the stream feeding into the lake, too many to count. I thought they were solitary birds, but there they were eating the ticks off the pasturing cows. My boyfriend wouldn't have sex with me. He didn't believe in latex, artificial hormones, the calendar, or his own control. I can't, he said, risk bringing a life into this world I'm not prepared to care for. And I'd plead, cajole, argue for his skin and my skin, sheathed in multiple prophylactics, only succeeding occasionally. At certain times, lake flies clot the air, thrumming, their mouthless bodies. My body hungers, vibrates, with no discernible control. I have a friend who careens between dark places, imagines his beloved, alternately living secret lives and love sessions with the girl of his dreams, placid, perfect, and untouched. He sets snares along the creek bed when they are in season to harvest turtles. You'll need a tub to trap that blood, an oil slick. The meat is tender when caught between colloids. On the river road drive to work, 2 cars ahead, the driver hits a squirrel and the wind catches its body, swirling the stunned creature like a little kite. By the time we approached it, the animal had regained its consciousness and was dashing to the side of the road. Dragging the weight of itself, front paws extended, body taut, it survives. The body wants what it wants, and what I wanted was his body. Again, that was by Sergio Ortiz, and that's up now at unlikelystories.org. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Mark. Before I do, I just wanted to say real quickly, if you want to read in the open mic after the features, just say something in the chat, and we'll hook you up. Okay, Mark. Mark Vincennes is a Swiss Anglo poet born in Hong Kong, to which he probably can't return. He has published 14 books of poetry, including more recently Becoming the Sound of Bees, Leaning into the Infinite, The Syndicate of Water and Light, and Here Comes the Night Dust. Mark's novella set in ancient China, 3 Tao's of Tao, is forthcoming from Spuyten Press. Mark is also a prolific translator and has translated from the German, Romanian, and French. He has published 10 books of translations, most recently Unexpected Development by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist Klaus Merce, which was a finalist for the 2016 Cliff Becker Book Prize in Translation. His poems have been published in many journals, including The Nation, Plowshares, the Los Angeles Review, World Literature Today, Raritan, and Plume. His work has received fellowships and grants from the Swiss Arts Council, the Literary Colloquium Berlin, the National Endowments for the Arts, and the Witter-Benner Foundation for Poetry. He's the editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and publisher of New American Writing. Mark?
Thank you, Jonathan. This poem is a fairly recent one. I've been working on a series, and I write them by hand first, and then I type them on the typewriter, and then I write them by hand again, and then I type them on the typewriter, and then I might put them in the computer. So this one is only in phase 1, just to let you know. It's called Of Cargo. In autumn, the wine is pressed. Many toes make a shrine to fermentation. The ladies in their hair-pinned buns, the men harping on about their losses. A paradise of tired eyes garrisoned in these quarters in the form of exultation. But their faces are blank stone, etched in some strange cratered version of the moon. In winter, rewards are reaped for their foresight. Visions of wild animals, lynxes and foxes, the rutting of the stag, even the extinct worlds of the mastodon, of the fire-eating wilderbirds, the world that was replaced by a few bundles of twigs against the wall where the fire passes through. But in the evening, a ship at anchor awaits this precious cargo of mythical tales. Here, the strange bins labeled seasonally, no hands or feet will linger. The vexation of creation is neither closed in one landscape nor at peace in the rolling hills. Everything is proportion. Stepping ashore in an economy of passions, these days are passed beyond expectations. They who cast their fortune from afar, willed into the mechanics of the future, a known thing, a dwelling from once before. And know again that each season, wild and fertile, or stoic and bare as it may be, recalls a memory of flies upon flies, of a smattering of pollen and dust, of egg-laying insects in every form. And even when Lucretius was blabbering, Amenicus wandering, and then Genevieve in her flowing robes, Francois close to the edge, and hairpins and hair packed with daisies. Is that a reason for excess, for a not too distant indulgence, waiting to see, to scan the horizon on all fours? Thank you. Thank you. And now, of course, we move to the feature today, Russian poets in translation. And I'd like to begin with Irina Mashinski. Irina moved to the US from Moscow in 1991. She's the author of 10 books of poetry in Russian. She is co-editor with Robert Chandler and Boris Draylyuk of the Penguin Book of Russian Poetry, Penguin Classics, 2015, and of the Cardinal Points Journal, now released by Brown University. She's co-translator of Lev Ozerov's Portraits Without Frames. Her work has appeared in many journals, including Poetry International, Plume, World Literature Today, Asymptote. She is the recipient of several Russian literary awards, and with Boris of the first prize in the 2012 Joseph Brodsky Stephen Spender Translation Prize competition. In 2017, she received the International Hawthornden Fellowship. We'd love to hear from you, Irina.
Thank you so much, Mark and Larissa and Jonathan, for inviting me to read with this exquisite group of poets. And also, it's very nice to see old friends, faces of old friends, and if not faces, then the names in the black squares. So I will read a few poems. All of them were written in English, except the first one that I rewrote in English, and the second one, Ophelia, that was translated by Boris Draylyuk and myself, my minor involvement. Before dawn. A bird of glass, a bird with a scratched throat, a bird that tries to tell it all at once, a bird that turns its head when cold, a bird that's pinned with hopes, a bird, oh, whoa, a bird that must be turned up louder, a tiptoed bird, a bird that types, a bird that strikes a match. Ophelia. This is the poem that was translated by Boris Draylyuk and myself. She swam and sang. I slept to you, slept into you, and then to fall asleep escaped from you behind a cardboard wall, as if unbound, alone. I wove July with you. I wove and sang, parting the silt like arras. Just as you wanted, there was light. There was my wanting what you wanted, and sank and sang and swam. You slept. Clouds lay above, as if unbound, without sleep, without a blanket. Children of the 70s, for Robert Chandler. We drank from a corner pump with peeling paint. We would run out, come home after the streetlights lit, and nobody knew where we had been. We rode someone else's bikes. We jumped from half-rotten roofs right into the dirty city snow. Our matches sailed down melting streams, and every year stubborn ice sheet grew black and chickenpoxed against the northern wall till May. We rang doorbells whenever we wanted to see someone, and the door opened for us, climbed fences, stole apples and ate them green, and sour cherries, whole thing with pits. The pits did not grow in our stomachs, and we had friends, just went outside and took them. And how about the blue chickens hanging in many times washed plastic bags? We called them bluebirds, chickens that swayed outside twin pane windows and sometimes would fall on a pedestrian. Tooth powder with a label that had survived 2 generations. Tooth powder cleans teeth and silverware. And lemonade machines, drinking glasses in anemic, wincing fountains, glasses shared by Soviet citizens with great immune systems, communal flats, the one toilet for several big, impatient families. Long night, under the bathroom door, a scarlet strip and a disturbing smell of chemicals, coarse silver grains of the present continues. An attempt to explain. So at dawn, someone sober hangs a sky like a worn out, wrinkled screen on the village's far end. And the old projector rolls in from the east on its heavy cart. And I walk through the tall grass on Russian syllables, where colons and commas are abundant in June and syntax is vague on ladybug's wings. I would settle nowhere else, wouldn't settle for less, trust me. Nothing would ever suffice, but how do I explain how I dread the expression on my motherland's face? Between a willow and a birch tree, for charred New York. November wind sways you bewildered, lost between two languages, one a birch tree and one a willow. And you, betrothed to one, betrayed the other. Stand barren, bitter, on the vast plain between two trunks, each outside your reach, not daring to touch the bark where blood drums under, in consonants, in vowels, in veils of anvil clouds, long, wet, and heavy, trench coats covered in icy crust. You stand between your people and people not yours, between man and woman, not knowing who you are, where, will be, birch or willow, bewitched by the weeping endings of one and of the other, translucent past tenses, so effortlessly peeling off. I have time for one more, right?
Sure.
So this is, I'll close with this variation on a very famous song, quite official song, formal song, but it's a beautiful elegy in my mind by Rasul Gamzatov. So it's a variation of this on this song, Cranes, and I call it a song from Dagestan. Sometimes I think that soldiers who have never come back to us from the blood-covered plains escaped the ground and didn't cross the river, but turned instead into white screeching cranes. And since that time, the flock is flying narrow or wide or long, and maybe that is why so often and with such a sudden sorrow, we stop abruptly, staring at the sky. On flies the wedge, trespassing every border, a sad formation, ranks of do, re, mi, and there is a gap in their open order. It is the space they have reserved for me. The day will come. Beneath an evening cloud, I'll fly, crane on my right, crane on my left, and in a voice like theirs, shrill and loud, call out to those on earth I've left. Thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you, Irina. Fantastic. I should also announce that Irina's next book will be coming out with Mad Hat Press, so keep an eye out for that. And obviously, this is an English book. And next up we have Philip Nikolayev. Philip is a Russo-American bilingual poet who lives in Boston. He is a polyglot. He's got a smattering of several Indian languages, French for sure. Well, you know, he can make his way through the world, and he translates poetry from several languages. His poetic works have been published in literary periodicals internationally, including Poetry, the Paris Review, Grand Street. Philip's collections include Monkey Time from Wave Books and Letters from Oldenbury from Salt Publishing. His translations of selected poetry by Alexander Pushkin will be brought out by Litera Publishing later this year. He co-edits Fulcrum, a serial anthology of poetry and critical writing. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So today I will, since this is a sort of Russo-American bilingual event, or partly bilingual, I thought that I would read a couple of poems of mine that exist both in English and in Russian. First in the Russian version, followed by an English version each. But I won't say which is the original and which the translation. It doesn't matter, and I don't myself know in every case. And and after that, so that's 4 texts, right? 2 poems with 4 texts.
Sure.
And after that, I will read a few Pushkin translations, which, as Mark mentioned, are coming out in a collection of Pushkin translated by me. So I'll start with the Russian then. И не такое бывало. Как сообщает сюжет в ленте, господин Басу, 41-летний житель индийского города Бенгалуру, взял в жены крысу, которую считает реинкарнацией своей первой жены, погибшей в автокатастрофе. Господин Басу, отец 4 малолетних детей, был совершенно разбит горем, но прошло несколько месяцев, и к нему на порог пришла крыса. У нее были глаза и нос моей жены, говорит господин Басу, сразу и без малейшего сомнения осознавший, что это она. Я предложил ей любимое печенье жены, и она ела именно так, как ела бы жена. Была мгновенная взаимная нежность, было знакомое выражение глаз. Господин Басу посовещался со жрецами храма, те одобрили брак и совершили обряд. Так произошло воссоединение супругов. Смейтесь же, любящие смеяться, и негодуйте те, кто любит негодовать, и трындите назидательно свое, вы, обладатели единственной верной религии, с позиции подлинного знания и здравомыслия, не могущие и помыслить о том, чтобы жениться на крысе. Я бы хотел знать, как они там теперь, но лента молчит, наша энтропия ушла далеко вперед, и о них забыли. В моем воображении они мне видятся живущими долго и счастливо в какой-нибудь укромной избушке. Я только надеюсь, родная, что вопреки и наперекор всему всегда буду за тебя держаться с такой же безумной верностью и слепой верой перед лицом смерти. Я только надеюсь. And the English. Stranger things have happened. According to the feed item, Mr. Basu, a 41-year-old Bangalore man, has married the rat that he believes to be a reincarnation of his first wife, killed in a car accident. The father of 4 young kids, Mr. Basu, felt devastated, destroyed, until one day, some months later, a female rat came to his doorstep. It had my wife's eyes and nose, he said. He understood quickly and without doubt who it was. I offered it my wife's favorite cookies, and it devoured them just like she would have done. There was immediate mutual affection and the familiar expression of the eyes. Mr. Basu consulted temple officials who supported him in his decision and performed the ceremony. The two were reunited, their reciprocal consent beyond question. Laugh all you like, you who like to laugh, enrage you who like to rage, and drone on you with the correct religion from positions of your presumably sounder knowledge and saner minds, you who cannot imagine marrying a rat. I wonder how they're doing now, but the news feed is silent. The human mess has moved on and forgotten them. I imagine them living happily and peacefully ever after in a secluded cottage somewhere. I only hope, dear, come what may, always to cling to you with the same mad loyalty and to show the same blind faith in the face of death. I only hope. Склонность к бродяжничеству. В детстве у меня была, что называется в психиатрии, склонность к бродяжничеству. 4 от роду я неоднократно сбегал из дома на весь день, один или с другом Погодком Бориком. Я знал, что это преступно, но перемигиваясь, мы садились на троллейбус номер, кажется, 10, билеты по 4 копейки, из компостера летят кружочки, платили сбережениями недели и через весь Кишинев за полчаса. Сходили на крайний, у незабвенной бочки ресторана, точнее ресторана бочки. Заглядывали внутрь, клевяк. Потом открывались возможности. Купание в озере водохранилище, я еще не плавал, или слоняние вперемешку с купанием вдоль и поперек берега, сбор лягушек в 3-литровку для заселения строительного пруда. Почему всегда приходилось их ловить именно моей рубашкой? Или, наконец, посещение толкучки, что небезопасно, но и 4-летние выбирают право на выбор. Один мужик продавал пистолет. Это пистолет? Нет, и спрятал. То были дни холерных эпидемий в Молдавии. Проголодавшись, покупали вареную кормовую кукурузу, торговались с бабульками за пятак. Возвратный троллейбус вез нас на закате. Затем картина всегда одна и та же. Скрипит калитка, мутант хозяина, исходит пенистым лаем, моя мокрая рубашка липнет к коже. Из темноты я приближаюсь к матери, ждущей у дверей нашей времянки на улице Калужской, в то время, а может и по сей день, не заасфальтированной. Заплаканная вводит в дом. Комната и кухня, без туалета и проточной воды. В комнате кирпичная печь, на кухне земляной пол с травой, мышами и белый умывальник. Эти строки — все, что от них осталось. И ярка была красота их убожества. Заплаканная вводит в дом, говорит, что отругает потом. Я знаю, что скоро. Сперва нужно сообщить в милицию, что я нашелся. Я тогда еще не обрел понимания ни того, как поэт ранит мать, ни того, насколько отчужденным, спасибо, Маркс, за этот термин, и одновременно свободным бывает величайший парадокс всех времен – счастливое советское детство. Tendency toward vagrancy. I've long had what Soviet psychiatrists called a tendency toward vagrancy. At 4, I would run away from home repeatedly for a whole day, alone, or sometimes with a friend named Boris of like age. We knew full well that we just can't do this, but nudge for nudge and wink for wink, we'd board the trolleybus number 10, I think, buy tickets of 4 kopecks each from our gleanings and savings of the week, stick them into the ticket punch on the wall, watch the Chad fall as you pulled, and ride all across Chisinau in half an hour to get off near that unforgettable restaurant built in the likeness of a huge wine barrel. We peered inside, it was cool. Then we had options, go and splash in the local artificial lake. I couldn't swim yet. Wander in between along the banks, catching frogs to take home in a glass jar to populate a small construction pond. Why did we always use my shirt to do this? Or go and explore the local flea market, which was not at all safe to do. But even if at 4, it's nice to have options. One guy sold what we thought was a gun. We asked him and he confirmed it. Those were days of cholera epidemics in Moldova. We'd buy peasant-cooked fodder corn on the cob when we got hungry, haggled with old ladies over pennies. We wouldn't catch the return trolley until sunset. Then it's always the same picture. The wicket creaks open, the landlord's mutant barks through froth, my wet shirt clings. I step out of the dark toward my mother waiting by the door of our temporary house on Kaluga Street, which was a bit of a dirt road, probably still is. She has been crying, takes me inside. Room and kitchen, no bathroom or running water. The room had a brick stove, the kitchen a dirt floor with mice and sometimes grass, and a white washstand. These lines are all that has survived of them. There was great beauty in their squalor. She has been crying, takes me inside, says she will scold me later. I know it will be soon. First she must call the cops to tell them I've been found. Of course, back then, I didn't understand anything, neither how a poet harms his mother, nor how alienated, thank you Marx for that term, one can be from the start, and free in the grip of that greatest paradox of all, a happy Soviet childhood. So now just some translations from Pushkin, from Alexander Pushkin, namely three. One of them is somewhat longer than the other two. The other two are very short, and this one is not so long either. So this is a dialogue in verse, and the title is The Poet and the Crowd. And it has an epigraph from Virgil's Aeneid, Procul este profani, away profaners. So the poet and the crowd. The poet's absent-minded hand strummed the inspired lyre. He sang on while unenlightened folk around, expressions proud and coldly frowned, listened with meaningless attention. And the crass rabble questioned thus: to what end is his tuneful singing? With earfuls of the soulful ringing, to what goal is he leading us? Where is the lesson in his chanting? Our hearts both breaking and enchanting. O wayward most of sorcerers, your song is freer than the breeze, but just as fruitless. Tell us, please, where is the utility to us? The poet. Be silent, senseless mob, grunt not, wage worker, slave to care and want. I cannot stand your cheeky rant. Worm of the earth, not son of heaven, utility is what you believe in. Your judgment is inane and hollow. You weigh the torso of Apollo, yet in his form you see no good. That marble is a god, so what? You much prefer your cooking pot, because therein you cook your food. The rabble. No, sir. If you're heaven's chosen, not someone who's a dime a dozen, use divine gifts as it befits, conduits for useful benefits. Correct with verse your brethren's heart, for we are cowardly, ungrateful, sly, foolish, wicked, shameless, hateful, slaves, liars, targets for your dart. We are cold castrates of the heart. Berate us then, our vice to lessen, loving thy neighbor. We too may love you if you instill in us your lesson, the while we have a listen of you. The poet, away with you. The peaceful poet cares not for your stupidity. The liar cannot revive your lot. Persist in your depravity. Each of you frightens like a coffin. Think of the plethora of fine things you've used to exercise your vileness, whips, prisons, axes. Enough, madmen. Since on your sidewalk townfolk walk, sweeping it clean is useful work. Yet do you ask the altar priests to ply the broom and sweep the streets? No, not for mundane trepidation, nor mortal gain, nor battleground, but we were born for inspiration, for prayerful and wondrous sound. And the next one by Pushkin is a youthful poem written in 1818, when I guess he was 19 years old. And it's a classic in Russian. Every school child knows it, and it's dedicated to his friend Chadaev. And it's a vision of what he hopes will happen to Russia someday. And we still, we Russians, we still hope that it may someday come true. To Chadaev, not long indulged by sweet illusions of love and hopes for better days, we saw our juvenile diversions pass like a dream or morning haze. And yet our hearts remain afire under the yoke of tyranny, our souls consumed by the desire to serve our country's destiny. We still await in anguished languor our festival of sacred freedom, much in the way that a young lover awaits a tryst that's been agreed on. While thus ablaze with liberty, our hearts remain alive to honor. Let's to our mother country offer our spirit's full nobility. Comrade, believe, it will emerge, the star of dazzling ecstasy. Russia will wake from her mirage. On ruins of autocracy, we yet shall see our names writ large. And to close, an 8-line poem from late Pushkin, 1834. It's time, sweet friend, it's time. The heart demands repose. The days fly on, each one subtracting as it goes a particle of being. And meanwhile, you and I fully expect to live, but sure enough will die. There is no happiness, but there is calm and freedom. An enviable lot. I've long fancied an Eden. In ample time, this worn-out slave has planned his flight to a remote abode of work and sheer delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Philip. That was fantastic.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, it was great.
And next up we have Matvei Yankelevich, who's edited and translated Today I Wrote Nothing, the selected writings of Daniel Kalms from Artist Overlook. And he's the co-translator with Eugene Ostashevsky of Alexander Vedvensky's An Invitation for Me to Think from New York Review Books, which received the National Translation Award. His most recent book of poetry is Some Worlds for Dr. Vogt from Black Square Editions, John Yau's press. He's been awarded fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts for translation and the New York Foundation for the Arts in Poetry, as well as the National Endowment for Humanities Fellowship for his forthcoming translation of Osip Mandelstam's Voronezh notebooks. He is a founding member of the Ugly Duckling Press editorial collective, and he has curated UDP's Eastern European Poet Series since 2002. He teaches translation and book arts at Columbia University School of Arts, and he's a member of the writing faculty at the Milton Avery Graduate School of the Arts at Bard College. Welcome, Matvei. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Just checking. Mic check. I was also thinking of reading some Pushkin, but I think I'm going to skip it since we had those wonderful translations from Philip. But if anyone's interested, this little translation, I finished at a Feast During the Plague recently. So the full text is online at In Translation, which is a Brooklyn Rail translation platform online. So I'm going to read a couple of translations. Something I've been working on with the poet John High is the Voronezh Notebooks by Osip Mandelstam. I think I'll read one or two poems that are coming out, translations from the Voronezh Notebook that are coming out in the new revived Circumference magazine.
Okay. Sounds great.
Upcoming, which is coming out very soon. So this is a poem from January 1937. The first line in Russian is "Sred narodного шума и спеха." Among the native noise and bustle at every station and every pier, the century's mighty milestone is watching, launching its brow. I saw it, he saw it, you saw it, and after, go where you're told, into the gibbering wilds of the station, into long waiting at the potent river. Far away now, the way station, the cistern of boiled water, that tin cup on a chain, that darkness shrouding the eyes. Param's robust cadence in our ears, the push and shove of passengers around us, and from the wall, the reproach of those eyes bore into me and caressed me. So many future acts concealed in our pilots and reapers, in Comrade River and Comrade Thicket, and in our comrades, the cities. I can't recall what really happened. The lips searing, the words callous, the luffing of the white curtain, the noise of Ferris leaves sweeping by. But actually it was quiet, just the steamer moving downriver, buckwheat blooming beyond cedars, fish running in the river's dialect. And I came to him, into his very core, having torn through the canvas of distance without a pass, I entered the Kremlin, heavy with my guilty head. I'll read one more from also the same. I think this is the end of the second Voronezh notebook from January, also January 1937. Those of you interested, the first line of this poem in Russian, since they're easy to search, is "Влез бесенок в мокрой шерстке." Up the devil clambers, his wool coat soaked. Where's he going? Where to now? Into hoof-imprinted thimbles, into hasty rushing tracks, on his way to fleece the farmlands, scent by scent of typeset air. The road spatters out tiny mirrors. Fatigued, the rutted tracks will hold out a little longer without cover, without mica. Wheels grousing in the slope, stuck, only half the trouble. I'm bored. My straight and narrow work is chattering off course. Another trampled over it, snickered, kicked the axle out. So those are two translations from Mandelstam, again done collaboratively with the poet John High. And I'm going to read a translation of a Arkady Dragomoshenko poem that I did earlier this spring. It's from a book of his called On the Banks of the Excluded River from the mid-aughts. I think it's coming out in a special issue of St. Petersburg Review, but I'm not sure when that's happening. An issue sort of featuring a lot of translations of Kagame.
I know Elizabeth is watching. I saw her on Facebook there. So she might want to answer that for the rest of us.
Yeah. We're looking forward to it. Okay, so it's untitled. That you loathe those who speak the French, I know. You say you're privy to where money's from for purpose of the drinking of wine in one's leisure, roadside. And also there is eating, and there's Pushkin as well, yet they don't speak of him as you would speak, though they do know knowledge to be nothing more than rotation in the optical point of resemblance between oblivion and recall. How cold, how callous it is to speak of it. So what? And you'd die me for just this? Don't you dare die me. Even for what has been spoken, don't do it. Knowledge isn't this. It's also not the lack of money, nor naked body put to palm of hand. Neither is it money to the one who peels away like ancient strips of insulating tape, like my old age, like my speechless silence. Here is where the poets place a certain special mark and leave off for drinking, light of heart. I have seen gods. Grammar will not let me write them with a majuscule. I have seen time, its periods, but this too, grammar does not especially allow me. I loathe the I dug into that which writes itself, is written everywhere, a splinter in the cast china copy of the heel belonging to the youth extricating a splinter. I wouldn't say the wind is blowing strong, nor that I would love someone, yet enough for purpose of forgetting at crossroads of knowing. Okay, and I'm going to read a poem of my own from this book called Some Worlds for Dr. Vogt, and this particular poem from this cycle kind of borrows from, steals, I guess, from Dragomoshenko from a couple lines regarding, I believe, regarding an idea around vision being a kind of verb, or a verb related to reading. And so you'll hear that, but anyway. So it's a kind of homage in a way to Dragomoshenko. Pose a world as a tautology or an equilibrium, a state of balance or static, something like the river flows, already redundant. What, in fact, is its shape? For instance, someone gave you this beer, so you can't do anything about it. You can drink it as long as you stand relatively still, describing to yourself the view or the way the tree trunks lay in the northern woods, leafless then, save for the ground cover, so that vision is not a noun, but the unachievable form of the verb reading, legere. Greeks choose to speak. Romans pick through the ruins. All this is well known, but bears repeating. Cherry blossoms in the rain, the season's emotional efficacy, to chew the crust, another way to bite down. Even the shapes of Eros, you know, are finite.
Thank you, Matvei. That was fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Is that it? Is that my time?
If you want to chat about anything for a second, you're welcome to.
I didn't realize. Okay, well, good. I was going to read some newer poems, but that's okay.
No problem. Go.
So maybe, I guess I mistimed myself. I thought I had started like 8 minutes ago, but.
I'm sure you're right. It's my Swiss side.
Okay, maybe I'll read 2 poems from a newer cycle that I've been working on. It's actually not so new. I've been working on it a long time, called From a Winter Notebook. So you'll hear the word winter in these 2 poems, which each poem ends or begins with. Okay. I pedal into warm wind once a year, know where and when to throw the towel in. From there, I cannot see my name. I read to a sarcophagus, climb endless stairs. Where Baudelaire ends, Mallarmé begins. Ask me for poems when I've lost my pen. I'm not in them as you gaze out windows, always the roofs of those who are not home. You don't make a poem with ideas. I met your daughter once before her birth. Careful, she does bite. It's almost midnight, the pointed hours nigh. Me at 13, ears aching, waking at first winter snow. And I'm going to read one more from this series and hope that doesn't take up much more time. Thank you again. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. Through winter, live in poetry to live, to die in bed sores, and the fear of life, which is a hospital bed. The moment before everything happens in a hand under the table hidden from friends. Touch, like the clock, pretends to know the future in order to move there. These, your secret sharp fingernails, I've anticipated their strange pleasure. To stay there and not go to the hospital bed. Of that forest, the same forest I think about always, it's not leafy. The brittle branches light on my arm like the hand you offer. Pour some more of the cheap wine, for I fear the start of the day. 4 o'clock, I think it was, the phone rang like a clock 7 years ago. You know what I want, your lips pull away toward the inevitable, I won't stay tonight, or was it, I can't stay the night? There's another night somewhere beyond the clock, behind its shadow, we are the ones with bread and knife. Where gone, Guillaume, the sweetness of that season now? I can write all night, and what I can't write in a night, I'll write in the morning, stall the day, for the phone may ring, and someone's hospital bed is across the long bridge of afternoon, waiting for peace. Many poems there were, someone touching my arm. There was a song about little branches, pine, to imagine singing and being in the forest of song and sentiment, of anxious spring touch of the young night. Stay, live in poems rather than life, which is a hospital bed and a clock, maybe that much. Now that birds are silent, stay in a forest I often dream of. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Matvei. Really appreciate it. And so now we have this gentleman who's been waiting in St. Petersburg virtually all night. It must be pretty late right now. Sorry to keep you awake so long. But here we have Aleksandr Skidan. He was born in Leningrad in 1965. He is a poet, critic, translator, and he's the author of 5 collections of poetry, several books of essays, and the novel Guide to N, out in 2018. He's translated fiction and poetry of Paul Bowles, Charles Olson, Susan Howe, Rosemary Waldrop, Michael Palmer, and other contemporary American poets, as well as theory and art criticism. He's the winner of the Andrei Bile Prize in Poetry for the collection Red Shifting from 2006. He's the Joseph Brodsky Memorial Fellowship Fund Fellow for 2018. His poetry is translated into many languages and published in different anthologies. In his 2008 book, Red Shifting, that was published in the US by Ugly Duckling Press, by Matvei's Press, and he's co-editor of the Moscow-based New Literary Review magazine. He's a member of the Kto Delat group and lives in St. Petersburg. Welcome, Aleksandr.
Thank you. Very, very pleased to be in your company and to see faces of the old friends and new friends, I hope. So I will read only one poem from the cycle called Cognitive Capitalism in Russian, I mean, and then Mark will read a few translations from the same composition. Translations made by different translators, namely John Narins, Thomas Epstein, and James McGovern, whom again I am very grateful. I think, again, as a translator myself, I think that translation is the crucial constitutive thing to your own writing. Okay, We will proceed then. Из цикла «Когнитивный капитализм». Я спускался в метро, я видел бездомные с мешком полиэтиленовым на голове, с мусорным кляпом во рту, подобно мумиям в мавзолеях внутриутробного сна, разграбленным могильником братства, вставлены в стеклопакеты пренатального театра, лентой эскалатора, уползающей в гулкий туннель агонизирующего зрачка, разрезаемые на равные доли неравенства в распределении гниющих нимбов, где колб дневного накаливания, волокна из драконьих зубов выковыривает двужильная ночь проводом обесточенным, пропущенным через намоленную культю точечной помощи гуманитарной, Creative Industry с красным крестом на борту. Mark, it's your turn.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Aleksandr Skidan from the Cognitive Capitalism. I descended into the subway. I saw the homeless with plastic bags on their heads, with garbage gags in their mouths, like mummies in a mausoleum of intraoroutine slumber, like the raided tombs of the Brotherhood, embedded in the window frames of the fetal footlights, dissected into equal sections of inequality in the distribution of disintegrating halos by the ribbon of the escalator defiling down the hollow tunnel of the harrowed pupil, where a socket knight picks out the dragon-tooth filament in the diurnal incandescence of the retort, with its currentless strand slipped through a venerable limp lum stub, a surgical strike of humanitarian aid, a creative industry with a Red Cross on board. That one was translated by John Narins, and more from Aleksandr. It's like a wall of rain or a wall of news when you're crumbling like chalk, as if the world were tottering and could be rigged only by crumbling. But the world is precisely this wall of news in which your chalk is embedded. Speech stones flow around in the dictionary of nothing. 7 of them in your sinus, mouth, 9, lysis conveying aporia, unleashing decision, when you decide to unleash the knot of life. Speak. The grammarian disseminates seams, fractions of seed, sacrificial, minuscule. A name is a gravestone, a circumcision, and Shiva's wool is dipped in a boiling column of dancing flames, but the heart in vain. The substance of value is thawing global warming in a relationship between ectoplasm and stem cell, cortical computer and alpenstock. O Earth, you mantle nomos, O coronal sun elliptical, cognitive dissonance, cognitive capitalism, trapped in love, tuft of light gaping like dry ice, lost forever, swimming in printmaking, the absolute referent, l'amour. That one was translated by Thomas Epstein. Next one. The first snow that falls beyond the edge of the page, as if your hand slipped from the keyboard and you were touched by a shadow of darkness that leaves everything the way it is, like spokes in the wheel of returning. Knowledge of the quickly falling snow and the gape of the sign on a page whose edges are not given to sight, but where my breath in you has become like a letter printed into another letter. Roses, a rose is, 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 Loja Kujenborg, at the moment of legibility, in Landwehr Canal, where a swan's neck froze in the ice, a history, and against the commune's wall, Mallarmé in Pomard leaned his split open head, where Luftwaffe's fires. September 7, 2017. They took down the blockade, then took it down again, and movie cameras took footage of the fireworks, and girls took off their shirts, and they took a lease on a dacha in Komarovo, and they took in the harvest, and they took down the measurements and a copy of the dialectical contradiction between being and nothing, so that there would be what thing? But there wasn't. That one is from In the Rereading, 1998. Not knowing, surprised that what is seen is but a shadow of delay, slipping away into slipping away. The fading of an echo blossomed like muteness in a word cast down. In a word, the shadow of a shadow, a thought's thought, behind the canopy of pines rooted in death and wailing. Rejection, the unmergedness of reflection and radiance. Unmastered freedom in the delaying delay, in the violet growing sky, at the junction of land and water where, daggering the star plankton, seagulls cry. Disavowal of what was avowed, diversion and the falling tide, the indifference of the desolate shore. The wind blows a half-sunken raft by the pit of its stomach into the depths of the bay, the otherworldly breathing in and out of swaying survey posts, of the lunar breeze, only a gesture of co-presence in the shifting sands of life's landslide. Very grateful to have been able to read that, Aleksandr.
Thank you, Mark.
Since we're here, would you like to have any comments about the state of poetry, where you are, about life in general, anything from over there on the other side of the water?
I think we are now living through the very risky but potentially profound shift. I think the whole world is going through this experience, and as far as poetry is concerned, in the Russian cultural context, it's also going through the shift because of the many political circumstances. I am afraid to point out all of them, to discuss all of them would take much more time than we have, than I have. But I think that it's a kind of a, ironically, it's a kind of a mirroring situation between United States and Russia right now, because you have a social and political turbulence at the first place, and we had it vice versa. We had state pressure, censorship, and political arrests, and because of that, social counter-cultural pressure, which is embodied in the feminism and activism of different sorts, and because we don't have like political and informational tools, it goes more deep into the cultural aspects, basically into the poetry. So we have now like a political wars, like you had it several decades before the cultural wars.
So a question for you over in Russia right now, is there a movement about, you know, minorities or anything like that going on, like it is in the US?
Not in the same scale, of course, but you know that we had like a special point in the criminal code that which says that you can be trialed because of gay propaganda. It was passed by our Congress or Duma, the similar constitutional institution several years ago. So our gay movement is less visible, but it exists, and there is a lot of like gay cinema, gay poetry, gay prose, but it's somehow very different from what you had even in 70s, I would say, of the previous century.
Understand.
I think that one of the most interesting political trends now in Russia is feminist poetry, and particularly I could speak about feminist seminar, which is based now online, but it started offline in St. Petersburg in the Paradox Love intellectual bookstore, independent intellectual bookstore. Couple of years, and there is also a feminist philosophical club, and it's getting more and more powerful and influential. And
we should.
This is one of the most interesting things we are going through. I think.
Well, we should email about that. We'll talk about that, because some of these voices need to come out. But thank you so much, Aleksandr, for your reading, and
thank you, Mark, for reading translations. That was great.
Thank you. I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan for the open mic section of Lit Balm today. By the way, this is our 15th show. We started the moment the pandemic arrived, and we have continued every weekend, every Saturday at 5 p.m., and we will continue to do so. What do we have up next, Jonathan, after this show?
We have a fiction night. We have Maurice Carlos Ruffin. If you're not familiar with Maurice's book, We Cast a Shadow, it's just the hottest, coolest thing in Black dystopian fiction right now. We've got Daniel A. Olivis, and we've got Michael C. Keith, both fantastic fiction writers, and it's going to be a great show next Saturday at 5 p.m. U.S. East Coast time.
Okay, fantastic. Would you like to kick us off with the open mic?
Sounds good. All right, is Patricia still here? Looking through the list of names. I see Philip, I see Rachel, and I don't see Patricia. I guess she had to leave. All right, so let's hear from G.E. Schwartz. Let me unmute you, G.E. If I can find you. Sorry about the delay. Okay, I've hit S to unmute for, there you go.
There we go. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for such a wonderful program. One poem here, Interior Design. The words we're placing on the kitchen table altar, before all our window glass at night, the kind that confuses flying creatures looking for a way to escape. All words are containers, wet velveteen creatures with silver latches. For instance, or a bowl of particularly guilty looking lemons long past Van Gogh. Sometimes domesticated and wet-furred in reprimands, they emit noises betraying their interiors. Although they swimmingly try to prize open a word like embattled, but find now it's been constructed without so much as a rusty hinge. Tip out a matchbox and light it up. When we crack the door to release the incense smoke, the tale of a bird's cry rushes in, briefly filling the room. If the bird itself had entered under the glare of phosphorescence, maybe drawn by the bowl of waxy fruit, it would have become a confused name to itself, something on the order of egress or half-inch, or the crane neck of our essential phoenix rising in singular wrath. Thank you.
Thank you, G.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. G. Schwartz. Injan, are you here?
Yes, thank you. I am. Wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much. I'm in honor of translators. I thought I'd read this poem from my recent book, The Migrant States, about Alistair Reid. The short poem is called Alistair Gone. You have left the field to wild grass, creepers, bracken, nests popping out from branches. I don't know if you ride Caboose in Temuco now, or step out with moor hens and grouse, or into that Dominican plot which you tilled, says Mcgrath, with your farmer's hands. I don't know, of course, it's just a fiction, an invention, a hedge, a way to grieve. You are dead, I read, who named my secret country, then disappeared, as was your practice throughout life. The New Yorker office, your only secure address, to which I wrote often, and from which you emerged to invite me to a Feijoada, to say, pair the poem, to begin on the lines you must love, and end on the verse, from where I greet you today, the other side of the sea. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. It's good to see you again.
Likewise, Trace.
And we have Lindley.
I'm unmuted? Okay. So this poem is a bit strange. It's sort of a love poem to the soft signs in Slavic languages and to the Ukrainian that was lost in my family. M dash. My tongue forms an M dash, hyphenless, the sonic space of M's absence, or a missing sound of pause in Russian. A line split by Sephora. I close my lips around the vibration, hold my diaphragm still. I stop my breath, then release, pronounce, articulate the miakisnak with no preceding letter, soften the tongue, lift to palate after silence. Could be a kreska, the Polish S, partly muted, hovering just between S and sh. Kreska, diagonal dash, a floating hush caught mid-air, not an empty space there, rather an open palm, a muscle paused, waiting, a temporal hold, a missing click of the metronome. I swallowed your name and closed my lips after. Liquid letters tickle my tongue. I tongue the sequence of them, slide consonant glide into vowel, test syllabics, unstress, unstress, stress, unstress. Polish penultimate syllable surfaces in my pronunciation. I want to remain beyond even memory, to hover in your mind, to wrap longing under my tongue. Let it reverberate in every language I speak to you. Your scent, your sweat, your rhythm, would you arrive multilingually, sublingually, in syncopated verse, prose poem, in which tongue would you, which set of vowels and consonant glides? Why say Lyubov? Better to add the Shah suffix. Let your name itself embody this intimacy of address, this vocative evoking closeness. If I say hold me, I mean contain me, be the border of the skin so I know where I end. I mean hold me the way I hold you, a thread to weave my way out of this labyrinth. Hold a skein, a scarf, a rope to find me in this blizzard, to ground me in this hurricane. I am the pupil of this storm and the white of its eye, its blue iris. Focus me. I am instrumental. Scale me back to prophecies of earth and ash, obsidian stones and sumac Persian time. Remember me to wild mushrooms beneath oak and birch concealed by mosses. Remember me to Western Ukraine, to where these languages once made sense. Teach me my language. I love even its silences.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindley. Fantastic.
I just got a note from Michael Efromsky. Michael, would you like to read one?
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
How are you?
So hi. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I have a couple of things, couple of translations from Brodsky and a couple from Mandelstam. So
Can we just do one for the open mic, or?
Okay, yeah. One from Mandelstam. May you keep and remember forever my speech, for its taste of misfortune and smoke, for its speech and its star, for my long humble patience and labor to death. I wish the deep waters of Novgorod's wells were so dark, so silent and slow, that a seven-finned quivering star on the eve of Christmas mirrored faintly in their depths. And for that, O my father, my friend, and my stern and merciless helper, I, the outcast seed and the prodigal brother, rejected as chaff from the Soviet wealth, will frame the wells in such rough, coarse-grained and mossy-log shelters that invading Tatars would be eager to sink Russian princes in these wells. For I long to be loved by the scaffolds and blocks, so frozen and unrefined, like in cub when aiming for death in the garden of games. And for this I shall walk through my life in a shirt made of iron, and I shall greet the axe of the Tsar with my blood that it claims.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, before we close, I just want to thank Amanda Roberts, who works as our technical director. She's put up these slides and helped us keep the room safe from Zoom bombers, and just helped us in 100 different little ways. Amanda, thank you. Mark, do you have any closing words?
Well, just everyone stay safe. It's not over for a long while, as we know. Write. Give us more art. Let's find ways to disseminate it around the digital world as well, because that seems to be our main force at the moment. Thank you so much, Philip, Matvei, Irina, Aleksandr. It was a fantastic reading. I especially appreciate Aleksandr tuning in from St. Petersburg at this time of night. Hope you have a nice whiskey or cognac and a good rest. Anyway, thank you, everybody. It's been a fantastic night. See you on the flip side next Saturday, 5 p.m. is what, Jonathan?
5 p.m. Fiction night.
Exactly. And it'll be a blast. Don't miss it. Take care, guys.
Good night, everyone.